continue to shock Quebecers and Canadians across the country. Do people have to start being concerned about the integrity of Canada Revenue Agency? Also, about these construction companies Marty just talked about. Was federal money involved, including money from the stimulus program? We know some money went to Accurso's companies. Let's get some perspective from some federal MPs. Joining me now here in Ottawa, the Parliamentary Secretary to the Transport Minister, Pierre Poilievre. In Montreal, NDP National Revenue critic, Hoang Mai. And in Toronto, Liberal Treasury Board critic, John McCallum. Gentlemen, good to see you all. I'll start with you, Mr. Poilievre. These arrests today part of Project Cush, the corruption investigation. National Revenue Minister Gail Shea had a statement today saying they're pleased to see progress and cheaters will be caught. But I guess the question is, are you concerned that corruption in CRA goes deeper?
Well, there is an ongoing investigation. This today was a very important step in that investigation. And that's why CRA, with the backing of our government, has cooperated fully with the RCMP in the conduct of this investigation. We've also dismissed 7 officials from the Montreal CRA office. And more broadly speaking, we're taking strong action to crack down on fraud and evasion. The government has doubled the number of internal investigators to identify fraud within the bureaucracy itself. Outside of the bureaucracy, we've been able to track down $4 billion since we took office in illegal tax evasion contained in counts around the world, and we're in the process of recovering those funds. And because of the tough action we're taking, fraudsters and evaders realize they will be caught, and there is a 238% increase in voluntary disclosures of unpaid taxes.
Let me ask you one last thing. Are you concerned, I mean, here you are the Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Transport, that these construction industry officials that are getting huge contracts to build roads, are you concerned that, you know, companies, Mr. Accurso's companies that got federal money in the stimulus, abused or wasted or stole Canadian taxpayer money?
Well,
with or without the help of CRA?
Okay, well, you're talking about 2 separate things. One is construction procurement, and the other is the
but
tax
for transport.
issue.
Okay, yeah.
So you want to talk about the construction side? Well, first of all of those projects would have been tendered by either the provincial government or the municipal governments. We do not tender municipal or provincial construction projects, so the vast majority of economic action plan initiatives would have been managed by other levels of government than our own.
Right, but you want to investigate if you feared corruption.
Well, we want to ensure that our dollars are being, we are the custodians of federal tax dollars, and we want to ensure that they are spent wisely. One bill that I'm supporting, for example, and is not at all unrelated to this, is Bill C-377, which would require much more disclosure on the part of unions in the way they spend the money that they forcefully take from their members.
Okay,
and that is a very big issue in relation to all of this.
I'm not saying it's not an issue, but we're talking about the allegations of corruption.
Yep.
What about your, the NDP have called for a national investigation into Canada Revenue Agency. Why? What evidence do you have that a wider investigation is needed?
Well, what we've seen is under the Conservative, CRA has been facing serious corruption charges. And we at the NDP found out, discovered that there were over 450 cases of high-risk corruption investigation being done within the CRA. And what the Conservatives are doing is actually, instead of tackling the problem, they cut the CRA's budget by $250 million. Last July, they laid off 400 investigators, auditors, whose job is actually to look at criminal investigation, special enforcement. So
when they say, when Mr. Poilievre says they've doubled the number of internal investigators, what do you say?
Well, look at, they just cut 400 jobs and 200 jobs in Quebec from CRA. And those are the people who are actually looking at the criminal investigation, special enforcement, voluntary disclosure programs. And if you look at also what's happening is basically the way the Conservatives are dealing with CRA, it's putting our tax system in jeopardy.
John McCallum, what's your sense of this? Is CRA, does it deserve a national investigation into corruption allegations?
Well, look, Evan, as a former Minister of Revenue, I think there's a really, really strong work ethic and ethic of honesty with regard to Canadians' taxation. So I think The bottom line is the Canadians should not lose confidence in the integrity of CRA. But even if you have a big barrel of good apples, there are occasionally going to be some bad apples or alleged bad apples, and so those people should be gone after with the full force of the law. And to the extent that there are other problems, like with the economic action plan going into bad hands, hopefully those will be uncovered by the inquiry going on in Quebec. But I think my problem with the government is not just laying off inspectors, but also diverting CRA into going after non-bad apples, like they're going after environmental groups, alleging that they're some sort of rebels, when what they should be doing is focusing their efforts on the fundamental thing of the appropriate and honest collection of taxes in this country.
Well, look, CRA can investigate a number of issues. It doesn't have to be an either-or issue, but I guess let me put that back to you, Mr. Poilievre. Is the government, with the layoffs that have come to CRA, is the government simply doing enough to investigate what are clearly, I mean, there's a lot of smoke here anyway, and arrests, as you've talked about within CRA and the relationship here to people who are now under arrest. Is the government doing enough to make sure the integrity of CRA is protected?
Absolutely. And
what about the layoffs?
Well, right across government, we've made the decision to provide the same services or better to the Canadian people with lower administrative costs. That means that you're going to have to make reductions somewhere.
But
now,
is this the result? I guess that's
no,
the point.
I mean,
are the costs coming at too high a price here?
Well, I mean, this controversy from which the arrests came today originated in 1996, 10 years before we took office. I don't think you can attribute this problem from 10 years before we took office to cutbacks in bureaucracy that we made in a budget that happened
only a
few months ago.
Canadian press did discover on other issues that Mr. Accurso, who's arrested today, his companies did receive money for federal funds, and he has been charged before. So I'm just saying.
Which federal funds are you referring to?
Well, from stimulus funds. I can
You're mixing issues, because if you're talking about stimulus, CRA does not administer stimulus funds.
No, I know, but we're talking about who is receiving money here. What kind of people are receiving money, and are we monitoring them, whether on a provincial level, whether on a stimulus money, whether on a tax level? I mean, these are the real questions about guys like Tony Accurso.
The vast majority, again, of federal stimulus money was administered and contracts tendered by municipal and provincial governments. That's how it works. They identify projects, we agree to fund them, they then issue a tender, a contest, they choose a winner, and they administer the contract with that winner.
Okay, so no special safeguard program. I got under 30 seconds here. Hoang Mai, should there be any special safeguards when it comes to the construction industry in Quebec or any of these industries?
Well, it's just not just the construction industry, and I'd like to correct Mr. Poilievre. The allegation was from the action was made in 2007 and 2009. So that's not the other allegations of corruption that are happening within the CRA.
Today is 2007, 2009, right?
Exactly, and that's what we asked at the. Actually, I put forward a motion to ask for a study regarding tax evasion, tax havens, and it took us a long time for us to actually move forward on that issue. And we've seen that the government is not really interested in tackling those issues.
John McCallum, last word to you. Should there be any special safeguards?
Well, yes, but my point, I guess, would be that Pierre keeps blaming Liberals when he's been the government now for 6 years. And it's their responsibility, not ours, if there is lack of due diligence in giving out the stimulus funds. And when he talks about all this money retrieved from tax havens, he should remember that it was when we were in government, we set up those centers of excellence to go after that money. So in that sense, he's living on a Liberal legacy. But my basic point is, it's the government's fault, the government's responsibility. They have now been the government for 6 years. And it's high time they took responsibility rather than blaming previous governments.
So they want us to take responsibility for the things that happened under Liberals, and they want to take the credit for the things that we've done right during our time.
All right, I got to go. Just for the record here, as we look through, the charges today stem from 2007 to 2009.
Yeah, that's a conservative period of government.
Right, but there's nothing in the budget, this latest budget that happened a few months ago, that would have affected that.
I'm just saying, but that was
Last I heard,
2009.
It does date
2007
back
was a
over a decade.
conservative government.
Pierre Poilievre, Hoang Mai, John McCallum, thanks for weighing in on this. It is an issue very much in Quebec right now, in the province, but of course there's lots of resonances across the country. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Let's
Thanks very much.
hear from our viewers on this one. We get a lot of tweets on this, a lot of email. If you have comments on anything you hear, but especially about this issue here, be part of the conversation on screen all the